Hi! So I just want to apologize in advance for sounding the way I do. I'm a little bit sick. Sick of you not knowing music theory. No, I actually have a cold. But that's okay. On to the topic at hand. Music theory. Is it worth it? We're gonna try it three drastically different. Is it important to learn music theory in order to be a good musician? A lot of very famous musicians and guitarists, Jimi Hendrix, Slash, the Beatles, Bob Dylan, have said that they don't actually know any music theory. The thing is, they say that they don't know music theory, but don't they? So what we're gonna do today is we're gonna look into what is music theory, how does it help, or how does it not help? I was doing some quick researching. There's essentially three definitions of music theory. So the first, if you're to take a music theory class in university, this is probably what they would mean. Musical history. And is that important for being a good guitar player? The short answer is, do you need it? Obviously not. Would it help to have it? Potentially. But by knowing it, you can implement different techniques from different time periods into your work. And if you're trying to capture a certain style with what you're doing, it would make it a whole lot easier. You know what I mean? Do you need to know Roman chanting and study Roman chanting? Probably not. But looking at more recent genres like rock and roll or folk music, you can find influences to implement in your own music. And that can be very useful. And just, by knowing history, maybe you can impress a date. Do you know that the piano was invented in the early 18th century? My main point is, that's not really what we mean by music theory most of the time. And also, it's interesting. It wouldn't hurt, but it's not necessary. The number two music theory that people are talking about, the ability to read and write music. Have you ever heard this saying? Music is a language. Or no, love is a language. Music is a universal language. Have you heard that before? So being able to, read and write music is the equivalent to being able to read and write in English. Do you need to be able to read and write to speak English? Not technically. But does it help to communicate your ideas? And does it allow you to access the ideas of a lot of others? Yeah, it does. So this, I think, is what most famous musicians are referring to when they say that they don't know music theory. So, is it really necessary? No and yes. Here's the thing, why it used to be way more important than it is now. Because before electronic recording, it was the only way to let others hear your music. Beethoven couldn't just post his shit on SoundCloud. He had to write it down and then let another pianist play his work. But nowadays, in the age of recording music, it's way less crucial. Plus, learning it is kind of a pain in the ass. From what I've heard, reading music is the equivalent to being able to read a language. You know how when you read a book in English, you kind of let the story form in your head? If you have the ability to read music, then you can kind of hear the song in your head by reading it. And that's pretty cool, but it's not crucial. Here's the most important thing that you can't really convey with tabs that you can with written music. So again, in the days before audio recording, if you just got a bunch of notes, you wouldn't necessarily know the time of it. But nowadays, I can just look up Smoke on the Water on YouTube and be like, whereas back in the day, you wouldn't know if it was or. So really, is the ability to read music as important as it once was? No. But also, would it impress a girl on a date? Probably not, also. So unless you want to get into the school in Whiplash or, something like that, you probably don't need to be able to read music. But it's kind of a cool thing to be able to do. Now the third meaning of music theory, and this is the most vague one, but also probably the most common one, is the ability to understand musical terminology. This one is essentially the rules of music. Now, do you need to know the rules of music to make music? No. Obviously, you can rely on your ears a little bit. That doesn't sound good. But music theory could help provide an understanding as to why. I guess the best way to say it, music theory is a culmination of a bunch of people over the course of history experimenting with music and seeing what works. And now by learning those things, it's kind of a cheat code for you to use to know what will sound good and what won't. Obviously, you can explore for yourself and find out hey, if I play these chords in this order, will it sound like shit or will it sound good? I don't know. But music theory already has found out, you know what I mean? By studying music theory, it could honestly just be a bit of a time saver. You know the old saying, and this one I actually know is a saying, rules are meant to be broken. See, but the thing with that saying is you have to first know the rules before you can break them. You know how nowadays when people see contemporary art, they're like, How's that artistic? My 3-year-old dog could do that. Number one, Albert, your dog couldn't do that. Number two, they've taken your understanding of art and totally like mix it up, and that's the whole point. But the guy who's doing that nonsense modern art is also able to do like a very realistic portrait. Like Picasso's weird ass shit. He took the rules of art and bent them, but he first understood the rules of art, and that's pretty much it. Honestly, I don't really get contemporary art, but anyway, the main point is, like you and I both know that's the G chord. Now technically that's music theory. Say you just put your fingers down in like 2 places. I have no idea what this is called. By knowing music theory, I could communicate it to another musician. Now if I'm like, I just call that the open whoop, people will be like, what on earth are you talking about? So music theory is important for being able to communicate what you're doing to other musicians effectively and quickly. And also it helps you know what sounds good together and what doesn't work together. Obviously at the end of the day, you just use your ear holes and go at it. Have you ever heard that music is math? This is 33 vibrations per second. I don't know if those are the numbers, but the reason different chords and notes don't sound good together can be explained mathematically. Not by me, but by someone. Now, the fear that some people have with music theory, it takes away the creative aspect. That's like saying, by understanding grammar in a language, you can't write poetry. By knowing grammar, you're not reducing the language into like technicalities and making it overly formal. You're just kind of understanding the principles of the language, and it can help you use that language to convey your message in a more effective way. So it's the same thing with music theory. And in poetry, like look at Dr. Seuss. Because he's a poet. He breaks all the rules of English, but that doesn't mean that he didn't learn grammar. It's the same thing with music theory. It doesn't limit your creativity. It just kind of maybe helps you understand what you're doing with it. I don't know if any of this made sense, because to be honest with you, I'm sick and I feel like I'm having a fever dream. It's not really a great excuse because, you know, all my videos kind of are like this. I hope you got something out of it. Let me know what you think if you made it to this point, because I'm genuinely curious. Like, I've heard of different lot of opinions on music theory and whether or not it's important for musicians to know. And there's a lot of people who are of the opinion that by learning music theory, you're killing your artistry. You probably already know music theory without even knowing that you know music theory. It's just putting a name to the things that you're doing. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think. Okay, bye.